Welcome to my world, where you will experience an atmosphere of love, relevant subjects, and motivation. So let's talk about things that matter. What matters to you matters to me. Welcome back. You're watching the Brother Henry and You show. I'm your host, Henry Harris. Last week we talked about what depression is. We talked about some of the causes, some of the treatments, basically just raising awareness of what depression is. We talked about different forms, types of depression, and also ways that we can help those cope with it. But at the end of the program last week, I told you that something is bothering me. You know, I read a post, and this is what our subject is going to be about today, not too long ago, and the post I found very deeply disturbing. And the post said, and this is what our subject is going to be in part 2 of our series, The Sting of Depression. The post said that depression is a choice, which leads to part 2. Is depression a choice? So I was motivated to address this subject based on a post that I had read on Facebook not too long ago. There are very few things I allow to bother me. The post really bothered me for quite some times, or there's times where I normally don't allow things to get under my skin, but the post that was made in regards to mental illness, particularly depression, kind of sent me over the edge. Have you ever had anybody share some misleading information that you know wasn't true? I'm surprised I didn't comment on this young lady's post, but I was not going to entertain her ignorance. So I'm going to be honest, when I first read the post, my first immediate reaction was, how ignorant can one be? Remember what I said in the last episode? Ignorance is not only not knowing, but not noticing. How come she don't know? How come she is not noticing? My immediate thoughts was, really? You really believe that depression is a choice, or those who have it chose it? And also, what I was shocked about the most was not only the person who made the statement, but also the people that was in the comment section who was agreeing with her. Now, I want you to think about this. This lady said that depression is a choice, which means if you have bipolar disorder, whatever depression you may have, you chose it. Now, I want you only for a few seconds to reflect on that. If you have depression, it's because you willingly chose it. Now, I'm going to stop talking, and I want you to just reflect on those statements she made, and you let me know if it makes sense to you. Now that you have thought of it, tell me what comes to your mind. I felt the statement was insensitive, offensive, and also it shows a lack of compassion and lack of understanding as it relates to depression and mental illness. And the statement overall proved to the world and to her Facebook followers how much she don't know. Anyone in their right mind don't seriously believe people choose their mental disorder they have, knowing how damaging depression is? Who would say, yes, that's something that I want? Let's try this from another approach, because my motive here is to show you how nonsensical this sounds. By a show of hands, who wants depression? Well, what about bipolar disorder? Raise your hand if you want bipolar disorder. What about manic depression? Raise your hands if you want that. Unless you have just lost all your marbles in your brain, no one's answer will be yes. Yes, I want it. I want it. Give me that mental illness. I want it. It's a choice. It doesn't make sense, and it's not logical. And my motto has always been is that if it doesn't make sense, it's probably not true. It's not even logical. It doesn't even make sense. And to say that a person chose their mental illness is the same to say that someone chose sugar diabetes or cancer. Do you see how it's not making sense? So I spent some time going to the root of this statement. People choose their depression and wonder, why do people believe such things? And I've discovered a few reasons why people, or especially her, believe that. There's always a root to why people say what they say. Number one, just because something sounds profound doesn't mean it's accurate. Now that may sound profound. People choose their depression. If they have a mental illness because they chose it, they didn't have to have it, but they chose it. That sounds profound, but it's actually not accurate. Number two, some try to prove what they know without doing research, so we share prematurely. You haven't done no research. You really don't know what you're talking about. But we share prematurely without doing the proper investigation and research into the subject at hand. Number three, sometimes it's traditional belief. And if you know anything about traditions, it means to be traded down or handed down. If you believe that depression is a choice, you may be the one where grandma and them, or auntie and them, or poo nanny and them taught you that, so you just believe it because they told you. Or it's something that your family or your church or whatever has always believed, so you've never questioned it, so you just believe it. Well, grandma and them told me that depression is a choice, so that's what I believe. Well, grandma is wrong. I am here to boldly tell you who do believe such things that you're wrong. And I rarely ever say that. The many people I talk to didn't choose their depression. And to say it's a choice is not only insulting, but it's also a slap in the face to those who are struggling with depression. Here's another thought. Some who quote this statement have never had depression in their life. So if you've never experienced depression, who made you an expert of depression? How can you say depression is not a choice when you've never had depression? How can you talk about something that you haven't experienced? It's very common that people love to talk about things that they have very little knowledge of. To those who are watching, who struggles with depression, on the behalf of this young lady and many others who blindly believes like her, I want to apologize to you. Who made you to feel like your condition was a choice. I want you to know that it was never a choice. You are not a burden. Neither are you a problem. Don't also make people feel like that it's your fault why you have what you have. Because some people will make you feel that way. Some people are very harsh. It's not your fault that you have what you have. It's not your fault that you have depression. Anyone who makes you feel this way, you should disassociate yourself with them quickly. So let us always be mindful of the things we say. Is it helpful? Is it true? Let us also be considerate and sensitive to the needs of others. And by doing so, we can make the world and those who have depression in it a better place. At this time in their life, who are struggling with depression, they really do need your support and your love, but never ever your judgment. And to those who may align themselves with that line of thinking and believing that depression is a choice, my friend, please reconsider what you're thinking. It's not a choice. And as I go to a close, promise me that you'll do better. Would you join me next week? We're going to go into part 3 of our series, The Sting of Depression. And next week we're going to talk about unveiling the myths about depression. There's a lot of misconceptions about depression that are not true. Close to the end of the episode, we'll talk about some facts as well. We're going to talk about each one of them, and we'll elaborate on them. And I really believe you will really like next week's episode. I'll see you next week. And again, thank you for watching.
Hi. If you like what you've seen today, be sure to connect with Brother Henry at www.facebook.com/The Brother Henry and You Show. And also be sure to check out and subscribe to his YouTube channel, which is www.youtube.com/Henry Harris 100. We hope that this has been a blessing to you, and we hope to hear from you soon. Keep watching, because what matters to you matters to Brother Henry.